If you were looking for career advice from a career coach, and he had led teams that have placed over 6,000 pros in 21 industries, worked at the largest Fortune 500 recruitment firm in the world, was responsible for over $50 million of placements of executives, and was one of the top recruiters recognized nationally while serving in the United States Army, you'd probably say he's qualified. This is the Executive Career Upgrades Podcast. Career competition is fierce. If you're a director, a VP, or an executive, this podcast is for you. This is the Executive Career Upgrades Podcast. And this is your host, Tim Madden.
Welcome to, episode 52. Time flies, Christina.
82. You said
82, yeah. Hey, everyone. Welcome to the Executive Career Upgrades Podcast. I'm Tim Madden, and if you don't know me and Christina Madden, hey, we are the founders here at Executive Career Upgrades, where we help directors, VPs, and executives land new roles quickly. Hey, we go live inside the Executive Career Network, which is the fastest growing career network over on Facebook. Check us out. We're at 10,300 members, Christina. And hey, if you're watching the ECN, say hi below in the comments. And of course, streaming over to our friends on LinkedIn and YouTube. We are monitoring the chat if you're tuning in live, or you could be listening to this while you're driving the car or going on your walk on iTunes, Spotify, and more. And as always, before we get started, do us a favor. Hey, leave us a review over on Spotify or iTunes, only if we give you anything valuable today. And I know we will, because this is always the hottest topic that we talk about. Before we get started, though, I do want to give a special shout out, Christina, to Michael. Hey, guys, this is an individual. He hasn't accepted the offer yet, so I got to be careful naming companies. But this individual, in 45 days of working together, has got 4 offers, 2 from Fortune 500 companies, and it's approaching $500,000. We just put the final negotiation touch on it. So we will keep everyone updated, but yeah, it's exciting. It's exciting. And with that, we have, we have a new program here at Executive Career Upgrades. We have a new salary and negotiation program. This is never taught anywhere, ever, right? So we decided to put together a program specifically figuring out, hey, how do you negotiate your salary? What do you have to say? How do you maximize it? So if you want more information on that, or more information on how to land a new job quickly, go on over to execupgrades.com/podcast and schedule a call with the team. Cool. Christina.
Yeah.
Episode 82, negotiating executive compensation packages, tips and strategies. Christina. Oh, go ahead.
Well, you know me. I'm going to kick this off with a mindset portion about this, okay? Because money and mindset are closely related concepts that can have a significant impact on one's financial success and overall well-being. So if you don't take anything else from that, let's pause for a minute and think about, what do we think about money? Everybody's like, don't talk about money. Here comes Tim and Christina talking about money. I grew up and that was a topic we just weren't allowed to talk about, right? Scary, all the scary stuff. And you'll hear us talk about it like it's, a sandwich. Like we don't think too much about that, right? Like we're comfortable with talking about money. And when it comes to your mindset about money, that would refer to a set of beliefs, attitudes, and thoughts that influence how we perceive and approach different situations in our life. And when it comes to money, our mindset can determine whether we view it as a positive or negative force in our lives, and whether we feel empowered or helpless when it comes to managing our finances. And so before we kick off, more deeply into this, one common mindset related to money is scarcity mindset, right? That's a buzzword. You hear a lot about that in books and on LinkedIn, and scarcity. And sometimes that can impact us when we don't even know it. It can typically stem from some things people said when we were growing up, right? So that's characterized by a belief that there's never going to be enough money to go around. People with scarcity mindset may feel anxious and stressed about money and may struggle to make financial decisions that align with their long-term goals, right? Goals. And on the other hand, a growth mindset, which is what we want to, eventually step into towards money, is characterized by a belief that there is always opportunity to learn and improve one's financial situation. There's always enough money, right? There's always enough opportunity. And people with a growth mindset, they're more willing to take risks. They're more willing to invest in themselves and their future and seek out opportunities for growth and development. And ultimately, cultivating a positive or growth-oriented mindset towards money can help individuals achieve those financial goals, live a more fulfilling and prosperous life. And this can involve developing a deeper understanding of your personal finance and, of course, seeking out mentors, resources, and guidance, and practicing good habits promote, financial responsibility and discipline. So with all that being said, some of that may have hit home for you guys, but it's like, hey, when you hear the word money and salary negotiation, what is your first thought? If it's rooted and grounded in fear and scarcity, this conversation is for you, okay? Because money is not just dollars. It's not just that check that hits every 2 weeks. It's experiences, it's resources for your kids, it's legacy and it's opportunity. So I really wanted to kick this off with these concepts because most of you, like I once did, are suffering with these scared mentalities around money. Yeah. If you're trained by Grant Cardone, maybe not so much anymore, but.
Well, it just goes to show, let's just talk about the economy for a second, and then we'll get into negotiations. Everywhere you see a recession's coming, houses aren't yet, the housing rate, the inflation, this is what you hear every day, right? But there is the number one reality, which is, follow me for a sec. During COVID, the government printed hundreds of billions, if not trillions of dollars that were injected into the economy. Everyone agree with that? That's what happened, right? Where'd that money go? Does money just disappear, right?
Because the money is going to circulate no matter what, guys.
Money's going to circulate no matter what. And this time in history, there is no denying that hundreds of billions of dollars were given to Americans and businesses or whatever to stimulate the economy. The money is still out there, ladies and gentlemen. Do we have 100 million more people in America in the past 2 years? No, right? So just remember, there is an abundance of money. There always will be, okay? But the problem is, what's going to be significantly dependent on your ability to go out and get yours, the mindset piece, which Christina talked about. But the other is just, forget market standards. What is your perceived value of yourself? It should be so high. Okay. So when we talk about perceived value, we talk about, hey, how can I increase my value so that my perceived value is at the highest possible place it could be when we come down to the negotiations? Because the reality is, you can be the best negotiator in the world. If there's no perceived value, it doesn't matter. Okay. So I know we're about to go into talk about this, right? But just remember, a lot of this relies on your ability to build a tremendous amount of value during the interview. And if you're unable to do that, other people are going to beat you out. If they do give you an offer, they're not going to be excited. They're going to be like, hey, we think Christina can do the job. We said it paid $220. Let's give her a shot. Very inspiring, right? Increase your perceived value. Brand yourself as an industry leader. That's why you're right on LinkedIn, right? To connect and collaborate with other people, to share your experiences over the past 1, 2, 3 decades that you've been in business. And also continue to hone in those interview tactics and strategies and self-development. Otherwise, it's always going to be really hard to go out and get yours in the marketplace. Because the reality is, everybody pays more for something that they see value in. Period. End of story. Christina, I wanted to ask you now about maybe some things recently you've bought, where maybe you've paid a little bit more, but maybe we're going to get good service. You were going to have a good experience, right? And while you're thinking, because I put you on the spot, let me give you the most basic example. Say you're trying to buy a house. The house is $500,000. That's your budget, okay? but you want this many bedrooms, this many bathrooms in this neighborhood with this pool, with everything you want in your house.
Well, you guys see what people are paying for homes right now.
Yeah. So what if a realtor brought you to a home where maybe you looked at a couple homes already, you haven't really found out what it is, and the realtor, they're notorious for doing this, right? Gotta love the realtors. They bring you to a house that's $575K, and you're like, oh man, that's out of my budget. But it has what? The rooms, the new fixtures, the pool, the neighborhood, the Starbucks, and the grocery store a mile away, and it has everything you want.
Done. Sold.
I'm telling you, most people are gonna pull the trigger. Okay. The other thing is this, say your budget for a car is $600, but the model you want, you decide that you want the sunroof and the leather seats, and that's another $83 a month. I can literally guarantee you most people will go over budget. And if you don't believe me, just look at the federal government, guys, how far are they over budget now? Shit, I don't even think we've ever been on budget for a long time. What are we now, like $30 trillion? So don't think like this is some like random occurrence where people don't pay more for stuff that they see value in, right? Christina, I've given you a little bit of time. Anything recently maybe you've purchased and you spent a little more than you wanted to because of the value you've seen?
Oh, well, that's an endless list, right? Ladies, you could probably relate to this. I spend a lot more on some leisure wear brands because of the way those leggings slide on, right? Or recently Tim retired and we decided to invest in a sports car. And I was kicking the can down the road, right? Because I wasn't even excited about buying this thing. But because I came across the one with the red leather seats, that was it for me, right? Like just, it brought value to me. That may not have brought value to somebody else. But if you get in an interview situation and you're talking to the CEO and he has a pain point that you can solve fast, they are going to negotiate your salary. So I know we're talking about leisure wear, sports cars, houses, but what we're trying to say is if you are solving problems, bringing value, and your perceived value and mindset is right, you are going to be positioned well to go into what we're going to talk about next.
Yeah.
Right.
So everyone pays more for stuff. Remember that. Because you're probably going to ask employers to pay a little bit more than they were expecting to pay. However, if you make individuals feel comfortable and confident that you are the person to get the job done, guess what? Most of the time, they don't have a problem paying another $20K or more incentives or another week vacation or what have you. Okay.
The last thing I'll throw in around the mindset and goal part before we get to the actual tips and strategies on negotiating is I know that there must be some listeners thinking this, right? Because it comes up so often in our community and in our enrollment calls that it's like, hey, you know what? I'm at a time in my life where money doesn't matter. And I've had, XYZ highlight, years in my career, and money doesn't even matter to me anymore. And I'm willing to settle for this, and I'm willing to do this. And all of that might sound good, in the moment. But what I find is that sort of takes people into a settling, right? And then also sort of a sense of like, not only decreased urgency, but desperation. Okay. And you're putting off goals I know you have. So even though you're willing to maybe say, hey, you know what? I worked for large organizations and I grinded out 12 hours a day and I made, $500,000 in my day and I'm willing to make $100,000. What I find ultimately happening is if you have specific personal, professional, financial goals, I don't care if it's to live on a trailer in the beach and drive your boat on the weekends and go fishing, you need money to do that. So you have to take a look at the goals, determine what that's going to take, and then you can reverse engineer what maybe the pay looks like and what this new role looks like. This is very, very important because if you don't hit these targets for you to be able to design your life around this pay scale that you're in, you're ultimately going to end up in a toxic space. You're not going to have fun at your job because there's no more even exchange of like your effort and money. So how much is that trailer on the beach for those? I know some of you guys are like, hey, entering the last phase of your career and you want to have a lot of free time. What is that? How much is it? I can tell you right now, the ones I've looked at are pretty freaking expensive. How much is the boat? How much do you want to spend on your grandkids? What are you leaving behind? What are these things? We have to think about this stuff because you need money to do it. I don't care how uncomfortable this topic gets. You need freaking money.
Yeah. What I say all the time is, hey, everyone wants more money. Who doesn't, for the most part, right? But hardly anyone knows how to do, hardly anyone knows how to talk about it, right? With that being said, it's kind of like this whole fair market value. You hear this term how often? Fair market value, fair market value, fair market value. When the reality is this, I've been fortunate enough to work with thousands of people. And unfortunately, I'm not able to tell you why someone in Tampa, Florida, who is a VP of ops, who works at a mid-sized tech company, and then there's another mid-sized tech company across the street that has another VP of ops. I can't tell you why one makes 200 and one makes 400. And the company literally is selling a similar product, similar market share, but one person's getting paid a lot more. Why is that? Right? Why does some recruiters get paid $75K and some recruiters get paid $150K? You should be paid on to the level of the problems that you are solving. So your main goal is to go to companies that have lots of problems, but you're in luck, because that's nearly every company out there right now. Every company out there needs more help in marketing, ops, process, better money management, more cash flow activities, what have you. Okay. So don't get too focused on this fair market value, because I assure you, right, if you find the Fortune 500 company, if that's what you're targeting for the VP role, right, it's going to be multiple high six figures. Okay. But what's going to truly be the determining factor is you, not the pay band. Now, with that being said, there are many different compensation incentives. So my first tip for you today is focus on the overall earning potential annually. So many people focus on like the base salary, and that's it. And they're just trying to negotiate the base salary up, the base salary up. Know that, ladies and gentlemen, at your level, at small and mid-sized organizations, most of your potential earnings will probably come from incentive bonuses, profit sharing, equity, etc. So my first thing is don't get focused on the base all of the time. Always focus on the on-target potential earnings. And know that there's different compensation incentives. Okay. There are RSUs, stock in the company, equity, right? Some type of profit sharing model, some type of annual bonus, vacations, other incentive. There's a lot of things to kind of calculate, right? What's going to make up this total package. So don't just be focused on that base salary.
And I just want to stop you there for 1 second and really drive that home, guys, because that can be really uncomfortable for some people. This is becoming increasingly more popular, right? Especially in like small to mid-sized organizations or startups or like a tech startup, right? And particularly in sales. You have to sit down and really understand the overall earning potential. And if it makes you really uncomfortable that you're like responsible for large benchmarks to reach those, you have to sit down and have a goal setting conversation with the person that's hiring you. This is not, the 1990s where everything is just base salary, base salary, base salary. I encourage you to have a very much growth mindset in this conversation when it comes to negotiating those incentives and bonuses, because that could like double, triple your base salary. You have to be careful and not be so scared of that.
Yeah, because if you are a seasoned exec and you're going to go work for a smaller and mid company to help out that CEO, grow that company with maybe the ultimate goal to exit that company, that is how individuals get paid, right? Most people in corporate America, right, they're making 200, 300, 400, 500K, if you will, right? But the majority of wealth is going to come from exits and stock, okay? No one is going to get rich off their base salary, right? Where your true income potential is going to be at those mid-sized and small organizations, right, is making the company very profitable, okay?
That gets me fired up. You can either be scared of that or get really fired up about it. I love it.
The other things are, hey, general negotiation tips, right? Never give your number first. Always ask them. They have a number in mind, whether it's the CEO, the recruiter, the HR, I assure you, no one ever hires anybody without having some type of range in mind. Otherwise, how would they know how to market that position? So they have a range. They may tell you they don't. I assure you they do, right? So when you're getting into these, hey, Tim, what are you looking for compensation-wise? Hey, great question. What did you budget for this role? And then you might get some pushback. Oh, we're not sure. Well, hey, that's okay. Tell me more about the position. I'm sure we can come to terms on compensation later if it's a fit for both of us. Okay. So many people struggle with this. They don't know what to say. They're not sure. It's okay. Just simply ask, hey, what do you have budgeted for the role? Oh, we're not sure. It's a new business unit. Well, that's okay. Hey, I'm sure we can figure it out together if we feel it's a fit on both sides. Hey, I will not let compensation stand in the way, right, of a great opportunity. Okay. Additionally, here's my next big piece of advice. If you are going to negotiate your offer when it comes in, do it via email. Okay. We negotiate 99% of all of our offers here at ECU via email because here's why. Okay. If you aren't really trained, like going through our salary negotiation certification program, and you don't know these things, the last thing you want to do is get on with the CEO who says, hey, Christina, I told you the top was 180, but you asked me for 220 and I'm really having problems making sense of this. What are you going to say? Right? So unless you're a seasoned sales professional, a seasoned negotiator, hey, stick to email. Okay. One of the easiest ways to do that if you get the offer in is just to say, hey, Christina, can't wait to work together. Look forward to our partnership, right? I know you mentioned you're having problem running digital ads and you're currently losing $60,000 a month. Can't wait to get started to come in and optimize that. I know those cost saving initiatives, once I come in, are going to be significant. Hey, I just had a question regarding What would it take to get me here because of this reason? And then you end it with, hey, I would welcome a conversation. If I never want compensation to stand in the way of us working together, okay, I would welcome a phone call. We put that at the end of all of our salary negotiations. Do you know I can't remember the last time where someone said, yeah, I need to talk to you. Okay. So if you're uneasy about it, just do it through email. So remember the tips we have for you today. Don't give your number. Find out what they have budgeted. If not, if they don't have anything budgeted, say you'll work together, right, in figuring out what a fair offer would be if you feel both parties, right, like it's a good fit for each other. The last tip you have is negotiate your offer through email. Now, a recruiter may call you, right? Hey, Christina, we're excited. We want to give you $175K and this and this and this. Do you accept? Hey, can't wait to get started with you. Would you be able to email all that over? And I'm going to talk with my significant other and I'll get back with you by the end of the day. Yep. So Fred, hey, I asked about the budget for the role and was told they were unsure. The announcement had a range. That's crazy, right? Come on, guys. You're going to post a job online, give a range, then talk to someone and they're going to say they're not sure. It's wild, right? So remember, work together then. Okay, you're meeting with the CEO. Hey, Christina, you've been trying to get a hold of me on LinkedIn. I know I need a chief marketing officer. I think you're the right person for the job, but I'm just not sure where to land in comp. Hey, work together to figure it out then. Okay. So the rule of thumb here is perceived value. You have to build that during the courting period, if you will, right? During the interview. Remember too, people always pay more for something they want, and we've given you multiple examples. So I'm sorry to say that if you're having problems with salary negotiation, it's probably because you didn't build enough value during those initial stages. So make sure you learn how to do that. Don't worry about fair market value. Try to determine, what do you think your value is? Who are some people in your domain? Where are they working at? What types of companies? What are their ranges? Because let's be honest, if you've been in business for 20 years and you're a marketer at a high level, you can't tell me that you don't have 5 friends that work at a variety of small, mid, and large companies who would be more than willing to tell you where they're at. Okay? Remember,
do be selective on how far you take that, right? Because you want to make sure that they're making the amount of money you likely want to make, right? And living the life you want to live, and also maximizing their potential within their career. So I always encourage people, like within that, you need to be careful who's feeding this mind, right? Like who's feeding the space between your ears.
Know all of the different compensation incentives that are going to be available to you in that offer. And remember the tips. Never give your number first. Figure out what they budgeted. Otherwise, try to figure it out later to see if it is a good fit. And our best tip is negotiate by email, very similar to what I mentioned earlier. Okay. Now, here's why. Okay. Let me wrap this up one more time. Here's why it's so hard to talk about money. Because I know this happens to all of you. You get on with the recruiter, hiring manager, CEO, and they just want to hit you with comp. Can we all agree, though? And sometimes I would make a joke about it, where if Christina would ask me, Tim, where do you want to be compensation-wise? Hey, great question. Really depends on what I'm doing, how much I'm working, how much I'm traveling, right? I feel like if we could get more into that, I'll have a better understanding of what you're really looking for. Because think about it, ladies and gentlemen. Some positions require you to work 80 hours a week. Some only require 40. Some require you to do 2 a.m. calls in Indonesia for my global corporate execs out there. Some require you to travel internationally. That should affect compensation ranges. Christina, if you have one job that wants you to work 40 hours and one job that makes you want to work 80 hours, and in each job you generally be doing the same thing, is it not common sense that you should be given more money for a job that you're working a lot more at?
Of course. Money is an exchange for time and value.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And while we're on that topic with time and money, and when we talked about incentives and all that good stuff, right? I've seen offers come in recently with unlimited PTO. And like, there's some really cool stuff, guys, that you can do with these offers. I'm not saying that comes through all it's come through a handful of times in the last 90 days. What about your time? Because you want to build in these experiences. So think about your time and going back to those personal, professional, and financial goals. If you already know that you have X amount of trips scheduled for next year, international travel or something, are you really going to be excited about taking an offer that is likely going to require you to work around the clock for the next 12 months to even reach any kind of target? It may not be the best fit for the goals in your life. So I just encourage you to be thinking about these things as you pursue these conversations. And want to be smart. Want to be smart about it.
So you have to understand that you create more leverage for salary negotiation the better you build your value in your interviews. You need to be able to handle the salary questions, right, with the recruiter or a hiring manager over the phone or on video. You need to learn the best way to get them to share their number first. You need to know, hey, what do we say if they don't give their budget? You got to also know how to handle, right, if they won't send you forward without knowing your salary range, or how to respond to these emails, right? How to handle the call of a verbal offer, how to negotiate your offer, after you get the written offer. So in closing, if you need help learning about how to negotiate your offer, right, or the tactics and strategies around it, go on over to execupgrades.com/podcast. Until next week, have a great day, everyone.